Welcome to Movies and Us. This is Darren DeBari. Usually, John Geckel Jr. and I are discussing movies, but today is going to be different. The impact of movies on society over the years is a fascinating thing to observe. Over the years, we've seen films impact our sense of style, our love of music, and our love of different film genres. Nothing is truly more amazing than a great film. The late film critic Roger Ebert once said, "Great film should seem new every time you see it." And there is truth to this on so many levels. I mean, when you first see a great film, it tends to stick with you. You usually not only remember the scenes, the characters, and the stories, but where you first saw it, who you saw it with. And the power of seeing that great film for the first time usually resonates throughout the course of your lifetime, especially if you keep revisiting that film over the years. And every time you revisit, you are a different person, and you may identify with a different character or a different situation each time. What you experience in life informs your film viewing and vice versa. Films teach us so much about ourselves and the people in the world around us. Now, in my days growing up in the early 70s and 80s, I saw a lot of these films on either home box office, otherwise known as HBO and now known as Max, or the movie theater. And the movie theater experience was overwhelming because it was larger than life. Seeing those characters on the big screen and taking in those unforgettable moments, it was an amazing thing to behold as a young child. And at that age, you're feeling things and discovering things for the very first time. You're making your first associations. In a sense, films are on par with our parents raising us because we are constantly learning from both. And something else to keep in mind is that films never change. Now, unlike people in the world that's in a constant state of flux, movies remain the same, like old books and great stories, plays, and music. I think that's one of the major reasons we constantly return to them. They make us remember what we first felt and when we felt it. And in a sense, revisiting makes us kind of feel immortal. We'll always remember that young kid in that movie theater that's no longer there watching that film and feeling that emotion and getting that rush for the very first time, when we were young and green. The characters in our favorite movies stay the same age. They're all living through something that we identified with or were excited by, and after years go by, they seem like good friends to us because we kind of understand them. We've spent so much time with them. We've taken those movies out on a rainy day and watched them again. And they've kind of re-energized us and made us think and feel all over again. And we carry those movies and the characters around with us for the rest of our lives. Sometimes they make us feel young because they never change, and we can fully revisit the memory of watching them. Those memories are clear and sharp and forever preserved, not unlike our personal memories, which dim with time. I mean, all memories dim with time, but there's something about film. It's like a record preserved. Memories, the moments, and you watch the film, and again you wait for the Death Star to blow up again, or for Indiana Jones to find the lost Ark. Those moments are there, preserved for you to experience over and over in the course of your lifetimes. And movies are romantic, escapist, terrifying, exciting, thought-provoking, suspenseful, and so much more. Movies can enlighten us, they can hurt us, they can be the stuff of dreams. And to me, there's nothing so powerful as watching a film on a big screen in a movie theater. I have so many memories of cheering crowds and people clapping at the end or during movies, but things changed when video stores came about and really changed when Redbox came out, and then streaming emerged, and then COVID came out and wiped out some theaters, and now it's got to be either like another comic book movie, or it's got to be like a Taylor Swift concert, or, a big sequel like the second Top Gun to get everyone back. But these theaters, they're failing. And it's a shame because there's nothing like experiencing a movie in a movie theater. You need that larger-than-life experience to fully understand. When you're watching streaming at home, you can stop it at any time, thus taking yourself out of the movie. I really feel bad for the generation who grew up watching films on their cell phone. It's just not the same thing. And the experience of going to the movies was a social experience. Heck, when my parents went, or when they were kids, they dressed up like their parents went with like a suit and tie to the movie theater. It was a whole different experience, And when you first went to the movie theater back then, you took a chance on films actually being sold out. I mean, now you can get on your phone and reserve a seat, but there was that sense of maybe I won't get in, maybe I'll have to come back tomorrow. The iPhone age has given everyone like quick daily fixes. A lot of these people don't understand the joy of watching a film. They're not patient with films. Film exposition is so fast now, you don't spend as much time with the characters. You don't feel as much for them. I mean, just look at Jaws, the way Jaws is set up. There is a shark attack, and it is brutal, and it is nasty, and it gets your attention. But then all of a sudden, you meet the chief of police, and you start to feel for this guy, especially later in the film when he gets slapped by the mother of a victim. You're on his side, and then you meet Matt Hooper, his friend, the oceanographer. Then you meet Quint, who's hell-bent on killing the shark for his own personal reasons. And the first hour of that movie is like a horror movie. The second hour of that movie is like an adventure movie with the men together, and there are laughs and there's fun, and then it gets to be horrific again. All that in one movie. And that movie will be 50 years old next year. And yet it still endures, and you still go back, and you still watch it, and you still root for Chief Brody, and you still cheer when the shark is killed at the end. The movie works on so many levels and is a true classic that you can revisit time and time again. I was too young to see that in the movie theater, but fortunately, I was able to catch it in a retro theater years later, and I had seen it at home so many times, but as good as it was home, on the big screen, it was incredible. I saw Casablanca on the big screen, and that film came out the year my parents were born, and people cheered and clapped, and they were into it, and there was just something about seeing that film on the big screen, so romantic, so beautiful. You love the characters, you love the dialogue. It's just a perfect movie. So many films stand out over the years. 1982, I was 10 years old, and that summer was the summer of E.T., and I loved how the crowds laughed, cried, and cheered. I remember one theater was almost completely sold out, and I ended up sitting next to some old woman, and I looked at her, and when you're a little kid, old people just seem stern and quiet to you. Well, that movie made that woman into a young kid, and I remember her laughing and cheering and saying, "I love it, I love it, I love it." And when I left the theater that day, I thought to myself, wow, people are just people. Doesn't matter, old, young, whatever. They're moved, and we're moved by what we see in the movies. I grew up going to the movies with my brother Chris, and I still remember us being little kids in 1977 and taking in the original Star Wars, and what an amazing experience that was. Or seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater, which played more than a year, because movies played for a long, long time back then. It wasn't like The Fall Guy that came out this summer and 17 days later was streaming. It was a whole different world. Movie theaters made money. People went. It was worth it to stand online. It was worth it just for the feeling that you got. I never thought there'd be a day where I would look back a year and say, oh, I only went to the movies a couple of times this year. Because honestly, after a while, and as much as I complain about the technology and the phones and the streaming, it's convenient. And sometimes you get to a certain age, I'm no longer the demographic. You know, I'm not 20 or 30 anymore. I'm not a teen. I'm in my 50s. So sometimes it's easier to just sit home and watch the film. Don't have to wait online or listen to somebody who left their cell phone on or is having a conversation in the theater. All of a sudden, I just got old. But you know what? Movies don't. They're wonderful experiences we can revisit time and again and share with friends and family and discuss. We all love stories, and motion pictures are visual stories. Ones that we get to share throughout our lifetime. Ones that we get to go back and experience again and again until our own story is over.